get into that, I think I'm in my own world. But then I talk to my friends, and they're like, "Yeah, I know what you mean." You know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's a lot of consensus.
Well, some of my friends they don't actually live in Mission, but they live like Noe Valley or somewhere, so they kind of.
Yeah.
Live, but they come down here and they're like, "Oh God, I can't believe what's happened to this place." You know?
Yeah.
People come to parties here and they're like, I remember I used to come here and it was like, world, you know, it was really sane.
Yeah.
What was it about it? It was just, it wasn't so, it's this kind of madness in the air now. When I come home at night sometimes, I come home quite late sometimes at 1, there's just crazy people out there. Like. And it was always, as you know, because you lived it was always a little dicey, this neighborhood, but it's become very sort of like serious mental health issues, you know.
Yeah, well that's something that people have mentioned is like there was more like gang activity in the 90s and stuff than there is now, but there was way less like homelessness and like blatant drug addiction on the streets and stuff. Like it visually is a lot more striking now. I think the like wealth disparity and just.
So it seems like everything's got magnified. The restaurants have got more expensive, and you know, people in these really flashy cars are driving around here, which was unheard of. Mm-hmm. No one would come down here. And then, you know, the other end of it is that's got worse too. There's more. There used to be like 3 or 4 guys in this neighborhood used to wander around and sleep in doorways, and now there's like hundreds. You know.
Yeah.
And they're constantly just moving it on, you know, like no one ever used to live in the alley. So when people come here and they say, "Oh, what's happened to this place?" You know, they're living safely in Noe Valley or something, Burma Heights or something.
Right. Yeah. Are there other like big changes that you notice?
Well, it's the type of people, I mean, I've been here so long that I've seen waves, right? Like, the people downstairs are they were a new breed because, first of all, they weren't from America. So they came to a country they didn't know, to a city they didn't know, to a neighborhood they didn't know, to a street they didn't know. And they brought with them all this attitude that they just, I couldn't explain it to them, like, do you realize where you've landed, you know? Yeah. And you're expecting everything to be how you want it to be, and you know, there's a lack of a sense of history, that's what it is. Mm. People arrive and they just see what's in front of them. I guess it's always like that though, but people arrive and then they want to take control of it, and everyone else is just kind of furniture in the background, you know? That's how I feel about my downstairs neighbours. They're just kind of oblivious, you know. They've got an agenda, and it doesn't relate to history of this neighbourhood or the population, or you know, because there's all kinds of people live in this neighbourhood, as you know, and have for years. I mean, when I look out, I feel like sometimes Valencia Street is like a movie, because I wake up to it every day, right? And for years I've been waking up to like the Mexican grandmothers taking their kids to school, their grandkids to school. And, you know, the young, like, hip parents on their bikes taking their kids to school, and, you know, in between all the other things going on, the people going to their tech jobs, you know. But I see it go by the window for years and years, and it's really diverse. That's the thing about it. It's not one thing, and I sometimes wonder how other people feel about all these other groups in the neighborhood. Like, I have very little interaction with any kind of Mexican world, you know. I mean, this is a Mexican neighborhood. I interact on the bus, but I have no real connection, you know. Mm-hmm. So I wonder how everyone feels about what they live with, you know, because they must notice all these people like really destitute, you know, all the drugs and all that.
Mm. Yeah. When did you first move here?
To this building or to
Or to the Bay Area and then also...
1980.
Okay. To San Francisco?
Bay Area, I don't know whether Santa Cruz counts, but I moved to Santa Cruz in 77.
Okay.
Or 78. But then I came here in 1980.
Okay.
But I came to the mission in, like, I was in Somar at first, but I came to this building in 87.
Okay.
But I always lived on the edge of Somar, which was kind of the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I've been in this neighborhood a long time.
Yeah.
And I once left. I went to New York for 3 years. And I thought I was finished,
Mm-hmm.
in 2008. But somehow I came back.
Okay.
The sun has gone in.
I know. It sounds so dark. Does it look dark up there? Okay, cool. So when did you moved into this building in 1987, and then you left?
I left in 2008,
Okay.
so I was here a long time.
Okay, cool. What was that first stint of living here like? Like, what drew you to this area and kind of like...
Well, I mean, I don't know how long you've got, but I found this place like most things. I mean, it was a big change in my life, but I found this place because I went to change my car tires and I had an hour to spare and I walked around South Market and saw this ad. And I couldn't believe it. It seemed not true. At 4,000 square feet, it was like $300 a month for my apartment. But I came here and there was all these artists living in it. It was like, oh, this is great. This is like a world. I was around that world, but I was going to enter into it more and living with a group of people, you know. So it also had the feeling of like no one wanted to live in this area. No one wanted to be on this street. It was like, people avoided it. It was like really, it's a lot of drug dealing and gangs, actually, like you said. So when I moved in here, Dana was here, Dana Zed, and 3 other women, and it was kind of like, this is a really good place to get some work done. That was what I felt. It's big, and I had a studio, and the whole environment, you know, and this neighborhood was like, because I actually dropped my rent by moving here. It's hard to believe now, but it felt like there was a lot of, this was a neighborhood where a lot was going on. There was all these cafes around here, like, do you remember Cafe Istanbul and places like that? Before Radio Valencia. But there was all these poets like Jack Mitchell lived around here. There was a lot going on in the neighborhood that it felt like a very good environment, you know. So I moved here. I was very happy when I moved here because it was like I'd entered a new community, you know. And there was a lot of optimism, and there was a lot of people with no money, but they were doing a lot, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it felt like there was like a lot of people like that, like around. That's the general vibe.
It was a kind of a mixture of dangerous, with all these like. I never felt threatened, but there was a lot of people dealing drugs, especially like next door here, and there was kind of gang activity, but I always felt like I was invisible. You know, they didn't care about me because I wasn't. But these worlds kind of move by each other, but they don't actually interact. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I remember I lived here with 3 women, and they were totally fine about coming home late at night. And it wasn't. I didn't think of it as dangerous, although a lot of people wouldn't come and visit me.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a strange mixture of people like me who just, a lot of people who didn't have much money, so it was a good place to live for that. And a lot of creative people, but on the other side of it was like all the day-to-day Latino world, and you know, the working people and all that. And so it was a very odd mixture, and they didn't really have much to do with each other. It's a bit like New York is like that as well.
Did you move to San Francisco like to do art specifically, or was that kind of like a draw for your company originally?
Well, I was living in Santa Cruz, and I used to come up here a lot. to events, to music especially, and I did some art projects up here. And then I'd grown up in London, so I was really needing a bigger place. You know, Santa Cruz is a bit like a big village to me. And I'd grown up in a very big city, and I wanted that kind of activity and diversity. And London too had a very big international flavour, which I really missed in Santa Cruz. It was just seemed like small. It was great at first, but I wanted more of the outside world. You know?
Yeah, totally. And you feel like it was pretty easy to tap into like an artistic community once you were in San Francisco?
Well, I already had a start from
Yeah.
in Santa Cruz because I knew people. I was involved in various projects, and I mean, it took a while, but I think one of the big shifts was when I actually moved into this building, because there was a lot going on here. There's all this dance activity, and all the guys who lived here before were all artists, and people living here were dancers, performers, visual artists. So it was, I definitely moved here because I thought there was more going on, you know, from the city, and it proved to be true.
Do you like have any like favorite places that you would go to like see music or stuff from that time that like stick out in your mind when you think back, like for art or music or just to hang out or?
To see music, I mean, there was a lot of different venues then. There was a lot of things that didn't last very long. Because I was never that into punk, but I liked the sort of late part of it and the new wave stuff. And that stuff usually took place in places that lasted like 6 months. And
yeah.
There's a church down on Folsom and 10th that I used to go to. And they had all these punk shows that place has been boarded up for years. There's been nothing like it. There was a lot on Valencia. There was the Deaf Club. There was the Native American Center, which was just down the road. I used to go to cafes a lot, you know, like Cafe Istanbul was great. Radio Valencia, that was later, but that was a gathering place. I don't remember what the question was.
Like just like places that
I used to go.
your memory, yeah. Like favorite spots.
The Right Spot was a gathering place, actually. When I first lived here, there was this phenomenon of fern bars. I don't know if you know about that, but it was all that was, especially over in like, you know, the Marina district. Fern bars, they were dreaded, you know. They were so anywhere that wasn't like that, my friends and I used to go to places like the Right Spot was really like that. It just had, didn't have an identity really that was strong. It was easy to get on with, you know. And it was a bit out of the ordinary. It wasn't like a bar that was trying to get everybody in, you know. Those places, pick up bars, you know. So I used to go to the Right Spot a lot, actually. And it's still going, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, impressive, for sure. So then you left for 3 years, and then what brought you back?
Community.
Okay.
I moved there and I did pretty well. I moved there to like up, you know, my professional sort of standards in music and stuff, which I did, but I didn't feel like I was building a community there, and I was always talking to my friends here. And my brother lives in California too. So I felt like all the years I've lived here, I'd built up this community, and you can't replace that quickly. It takes time, right? And I had to kind of weigh up, like, okay, so do I stay in New York and just, you know, live in this, the way people live there, they're very isolated and separate. Or do I come back here where I have this community and, musicians, dancers, artists, everybody. I had a lot of history with all those people. So in the end, I made that choice, which was about connection to people and history, rather than... New York seemed very, business-like. Everybody was... I always tell people, I remember after doing shows, everyone would just go home.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'd work with these dance companies here, and we'd all go to a bar, and hang out for 3 or 4 hours. And New York, everyone was like, see ya, and they'd get on the subway, go back to New Jersey or Queens or whatever. It was very, very different. It was all that very efficient, Mm. And a lot got done, but it didn't feel like I was building any kind of community or family, in that sense.
Yeah.
And eventually I had to make that choice, which was very hard, because I missed it when I left, because it's very dynamic. A lot of opportunities.
Yeah. And then when you came back, did you move back in here? When you came back? Okay, cool. And did you feel like it was different, like when you came back to the mission after that?
I found it a bit depressing. I felt like, what happened? I went away for 3 years and I came back to the same building in the same rooms. It's really strange.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely, there'd been an up they'd redone all the streets here, they'd redone all the sidewalks. And it was definitely more tech than it had ever been. It definitely felt different, and like I'd missed something that happened. I didn't know what it was, because I wasn't paying attention while I was away. Mm-hmm. And it took me a long time to adjust, actually, because I found it a bit quiet. A bit sort of sleepy, actually.
Yeah. That makes sense. Do you feel like do you still feel part of an artistic community in the mission now?
Yes, but much less so.
Okay.
Partly because many of those people moved. Mm-hmm. They're still in the Bay Area, but they're like in Oakland or Berkeley or Vallejo or something. So I feel like there was a time when I felt like my community had just dissolved, I have a lot of those old friends are in that community who still live here in Noe Valley and places, but it was definitely depleted, Partly because I saw, just before I left, I saw all these people lose their places. People had warehouses for years and they lost them, and buildings were sold, and I saw a lot of people just be forced out, and then they went all over San Diego or New York. So it was definitely different when I came back, Not in a good way either.
Yeah.
More expensive.
And
less community, less atmosphere, less... I mean, a lot of expensive restaurants, there were never any down here. A lot of, just people come in to eat in expensive cars. And it just seemed very different, All the poets had moved out, of course. Most of the painters had moved out too. Or they got successful, whatever.
Yeah. Do you think if you were in your 20s now, you would still choose you would still want to be in the mission? Do you think you would still want to be here?
That's a damn good question. I don't know. Impossible to answer because I can't. I mean, my young self is very different.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would have thought it was the place to go. I don't know. But I'm still here, so that proves something.
Yeah.
I tell people quite often I still appreciate it. I still like how it sort of resists certain changes.
How so?
the Latin community is very strong and resists. You go to mission, it's all Latin, all the businesses. It still resists that complete takeover. It's a bit like the Tenderloin, although the Tenderloin is more hardcore. It kind of resists, it's like you can't quite break it. I mean, in some ways people have done it, but they're not going to shift the Latino community. It's not going to go away. 24th Street and Mission Street. So that's encouraging. But I don't know if I came here in my 20s, I might not like it actually. Impossible to say because I only know what has happened already.
Yeah. What do you think you wouldn't like about it? Like, what do you plan on?
I think the dereliction of some of the people and the garbage everywhere. It used to be, even if it was rough, it was pretty clean.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just, I go out and there's like piles of garbage sometimes, and they're constantly trying to clean up the alleys, and it's just like trashy, and people are living in trash, and for whatever reason, it's just like that's the thing I would notice right away.
Mm-hmm.
And even having been here for years, I'm not resilient to it. I still look at it like, wow, how did this happen, How did it go this far, Because it's not happening up in Pacific Heights, it's not happening even North Beach or Bona Heights. I was in Bona Heights the other day. It's like, it's kind of clean up here.
Yeah, definitely. It's like specific areas that are dirty, for sure.
It's sort of like, they have these designated sacrifice areas, and it's kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, well, we'll let all the bad stuff happen in one place, then we can contain it and understand it and control it, But I mean, it's only a step down from the Tenderloin, which is pretty far gone, And I do also, I've seen phases where it gets bad and then it gets better. So I always have faith that there's all these sort of natural waves,
Totally.
Something else is going to come, I'm hoping my neighbours move out, actually.
Yeah. The downstairs. Yeah. So.
And they finally wake up.
Yeah. Do you feel like I know you talked about like the difference in people like struggling with addiction and living on the street and stuff, and that feels like a big shift. But do you notice any sort of shift in like the people that are living here now and like the businesses, and like does that have any sort of impact on like community that you feel compared to like when you think about how it was in
It does feel like there's less community, actually. Well, it became like a respectable place to live after it wasn't, so people were taking over apartments here who would never live in this neighborhood, and they were leading bus tours, for tourists. It was like, it wasn't really like that before.
Yeah. So
there's a lot of people moved in, and it became fashionable. I mean, I was reading about it online, about how people internationally know about Valencia Street, because it's like a cool place to go, And I see, when I lived here, people wouldn't even visit me,
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it's shifted in that people who live here now, well, it's not, no sense of history, so they don't know what happened before. They just arrive and it's got all these restaurants and businesses, and it's considered cool, which is why these guys moved in downstairs. They would never have moved in there 10 years ago. It's considered cool, and in the middle of something, So in that sense, it's definitely shifted. I mean, in some ways I feel, part of me feels a bit out of place here now. You probably have that too. It's like, it's shifted into something else, and me and a few others are like holdouts. My landlord even says that to me. We're dinosaurs.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think it's like important it's important to stay, you know what I mean? Like I feel that way too, like especially when I was like in my earlier 20s and kind of feeling like I really want to do music, like maybe I should move and go to LA or New York, or like that's like where you're supposed to go to like make it in the industry, you know? And I was kind of like, fuck that, I don't want to leave. Like there's no part of me that wants to leave.
Well,
like,
your family's there.
Yeah, my family's here, my friends and everything, and I just have such a deep love for the city, you know? Just felt kind of like, I'm gonna stick it out and I'm gonna like be a part of this scene here, you know? Even though it might not be as like obvious where that scene is or what it's doing.
Well, that's why when you asked me why I moved back here, it's definitely all about that. So.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, it's more like, you know, David Byrne wrote a book about it called Music, and he said there has to be a scene, you know. He said when he moved to East Village, there was this community and a scene, you know. There has to be like a greater thing around you that you're part of, you know, in order to nurture what you're doing, and people nurture each other. You know? So he wrote about that, and it really struck me like, yeah, it's so true that, you know, you could move to the East Village in 1980 and it was just dangerous and dirty and horrible. But there was a community there, and everyone had they didn't know what it was, they knew they were going somewhere. And that's true of most things like that. No one knows where it's going. But they still want to be there. They didn't all say, let's do new wave, or let's, you know,
yeah.
Like in London, let's do punk. No one got together and decided. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. Did you feel like San Francisco was, or the Mission was having a moment like that? Like when you came here, did it feel like you were kind of like, there was more of a scene? No.
I sort of went back to what I knew.
Okay, yeah.
At the same time, being open to new things. But what I do remember, actually, when I came back was how, and this is what I remember about California when I came here, it was very, like, welcoming, you know. The sense when I came to California was like, hey, what do you do? Come on in, you know. Mm-hmm. It was very much like that, as opposed to London, which was like, who are you? What do you do? And New York is like that.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back here, and within a few weeks, things were happening where people would say the same thing, like, oh, let's hear what you're doing, you know, or really, you do painting? I want to come over and see them, you know. It was like, it's like that here more, much sort of New York. It's very welcoming, come on in, who are you? And the other thing I always liked about San Francisco, like, we don't even care if you're not very good at what you do, but come on in, you know. Yeah. And then, you know, that's the good side of it. The other side of that is that gives room for people to try things out, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of great stuff comes because you're not shutting it down early on, you know. I feel like I was one of those, because when I started doing music, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But people gave me the space to get up and do a bad show, you know.
Yeah.
Not know what I was doing, and that was how I built what I did. From like, oh, come on, you can. We've got a spot tonight. Come and play, you know, and all that. So I think that's one of the good things about San Francisco. It's much more like welcoming. Like, yeah, okay, well, you're not that good, but we need someone tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I feel like San Francisco the scene can get that kind of like cliquey thing of like who's cool and who's not, and like the bands that are cool and the bands that aren't, and like it definitely can have that, but I don't feel like that's all there is to it, you know, like it feels like there's a lot of stuff outside of just that kind of thing that's like a little bit more judgmental and toxic and like competitive, which is kind of how any scene I think
that's
has to
anyway,
have that,
yeah.
But San Francisco always feels like there's also just so many people that are like, I'm just doing this for fun, and and like I just like playing music, and like I don't really care if you think I'm good. Like I'm doing this for me. And
Some people have a sense that they're going to do something good, but they
yeah.
don't know how to get there. So they just getting going is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have a series here in the 90s in the room next door, which was the Salon every month. And some of the stuff was so terrible, and some of it was brilliant, And
Yeah.
it was like every week, and the word got around like you don't have to be that good. So some of the stuff was so memorably bad, but then other stuff was so brilliant, and I was doing stuff in that, and it gave you permission to be bad, and to take a risk, and people would let you do it,
Yeah.
And we had everything. We had poetry, dancing, theatre, choirs, bands, Everybody came, and some of it was just dreadful, but I always liked the idea that it was open, and in that room every week something great would happen every week, every month. And it wasn't, or most of those people didn't do it seriously and went on to other things. Other people like me, that's where I found my performing world, Just by being allowed to be terrible,
Yeah, totally.
Maybe I wasn't that terrible, but I
Or
wasn't.
just have a space to,
Yeah.
just practice or get better.
Well, there was encouragement too. Like people
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I didn't like that first song, but that second one was good,"
Yeah, nice.
Or they'd say, "Oh, you want to come and work on my dance project?" And I didn't think she was a very good dancer, but I'd do it anyway. And then actually she was a good dancer in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like that. It was like the space was there, which is very important, rather than the high level of professionalism, which excludes a lot of people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just the ability to be a little bit more open.
It's also that there's the cliche about San Francisco too, that LA looks upon it as a bunch of amateurs, and many people are, but many people are very talented and they do great things.
Yeah. I also think in the end, like, it doesn't really matter.
Well, that's it. If you're good with yourself, you're okay, right?
Exactly. And like the thing that makes it cool is just people doing art. It's like in the end, it doesn't really matter how many stars came out of the place. It's like nobody really cares about that. What's more is like, is it fun? Does it feel good to be a part of it? Is it alive? Like.
But we're always measured by,
Yeah.
big names.
Yeah.
It's a curse, the whole thing. But I do think it allows for people to get off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
New York's even like that,
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough.
Yeah, totally.
It's very tall. I saw some really bad art in New York,
Yeah.
some really bad singers and bands, but they're allowed to do it. And actually, most of that early punk stuff, those guys were not very skillful. They learned how to do it.
Yeah.
They learn by the pressure of having to present. It's like David Byrne said, there has to be a scene that allows that.
Did you feel like there was a lot of infrastructure supporting art and artists?
There was.
Back then? Like spaces like such as that, like Salon, like spaces like that.
It was in the 80s and 90s, and then
Yeah.
it really died a lot of it. And even more so during COVID and all that, everything just died out. And now it's coming back, I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of new venues.
Yeah.
Even in Oakland, I've been to new venues. But there was sort of a withering, The 90s to me was the peak of it all. There were some really good things then. And I felt very engaged. I never thought about living anywhere else in those days.
Yeah.
It was very, very fulfilling, the whole thing. And I knew a lot of dancers and musicians, and I felt there was a point where I felt a certain group I worked with, I felt like I found my family because everybody got what I was doing and allowed me to do it even more,
Mm-hmm.
and encouraged it, and then hired me to do it again,
Mm-hmm.
and then I was working with some really, really good dancers too in those days who were really good at what they did, and they were also people who'd started out not really knowing what they were doing and just became really good.
Yeah.
So I felt like, and they understood what I did, and they understood how it fit with what they did, and it felt like, in a sense, like a family is the best way to describe it. It was like we were all on the same wavelength, and fed each other. And all the different arts, the writers, the painters, performers, they all kind of fed each other.
It felt like collaborative, kind
of. Yeah, everybody was very. Well, there was that sense of no one thought about where it was going. You just did it. And there was a whole thing here called the mission school. You know that the artists.
Yeah, the chapel. That thing?
No.
Oh, sorry. No.
Most of them now are very big names. They're very famous. But there was this artificially made thing that someone called it the mission school, which a lot of people I knew, like Alicia McCarthy and Barry McGee, and big names, but they were just graffiti and all over the place, But there was a community of visual artists who were very unknown but very serious, and eventually they were recognised. And now there's a new show at Yokohama. But they've been recognised even by New York. So that the visual artists, none of them actually live in the Mission anymore. But, they all moved to Portland and LA. But some of them they've made big money. They got into big galleries, and Barry McGee, he's a success story. Alicia McCarthy, who used to hang out here. We had a record label together, but now all those guys are all off, doing other things.
Cool. Do you feel like when you first moved here, was it like, did you struggle to be an artist and do art?
No, when I moved into this building, it was like I'd made a big step, First of all, it was, in those days, very empty. And this studio was huge, and there was no walls, it was all open. And I remember moving in there, it was like, now I can breathe, I can make big things. And Dana, who was living there, had half the room. And I just felt like everything had opened up. It wasn't a struggle at all, I mean, I had to work to make money, which wasn't related, I always felt, because I worked in construction, it was always, my feeling was always like, being at work made me so angry that it motivated me to go and do art,
Yeah.
It's like, fuck this, I can do better than this, I can actually do some good music, I'm going to do it, and so going to work really motivated me in that way, and also it made money, which was obviously useful. But I remember that feeling of like, oh, here I am again. I've got to get out of this, Got to do some much better music.
Nice.
You ever feel like that?
I don't really feel that way anymore. I feel like when I was younger, I had a lot of anxiety about being successful at music, and I really felt this dread of like, if I don't make it as a musician, like I'm never going to be happy. My life is going to suck, and I'll never care about anything.
Well, now you're enlightened, you see.
Yeah, but now I kind of am like, actually, I don't think that being a successful musician would make me happy. Like, I don't actually really enjoy performing very much, or like, I've kind of just been. It's easier for me now to kind of be like, that actually clearly is not my path, and I don't stress about it so much.
Well, I knew a lot of successful people in the music business, and none of them were happy.
Yeah, it's just kind of like.
And when I was quite young too.
Yeah, and some people, do love it, and like that's cool. I just felt like I couldn't have just a job and be okay. Like I needed to make this big statement. I needed to prove myself, and otherwise I wasn't gonna
But you still feel the impulse to create, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. And I still love playing in my band, and I get a lot of enjoyment from singing with other people is the thing I love the most. And I still love writing songs, but it's actually like singing with other people. I think is the best feeling. It's something spiritually very like I love it. It really feels so good.
Well, you don't have to convince me.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
I'm in a choir,
I feel like, and that's why I love my band so much because we all sing, and it's like
it's great. It's, you know, they have these great revelations that it's good for the health and all that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like it feels amazing. So I'm not sure. I hope that I always will prioritize doing music. I hope that I don't let myself stop doing it because I do love it, but it just doesn't need to be as much as it did when I was younger.
That's very enlightened, you know.
Thanks.
No, I mean, like I said, I knew a lot of people. Even when I was living in England, I knew people who were in really big bands and they were not happy people.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, everyone needs all this stuff from you all the time, and you always have to do the shit you don't want to do.
And the other thing was, a lot of them got screwed by the managers, and they never made any money.
Right.
And they were like international stars, but they didn't have a penny.
Yeah.
I knew several of those guys. And I knew some in LA too.
Yeah. So sad. Didn't take any
Well, what it was to me was like, it's not a good example of something I want to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
It doesn't look very rewarding, you know, like, if you got a hit record, you're great, but if you're like a little down on your luck, no one wants to know you.
Yeah.
And I saw those guys that were like, a lot of them hanging out in Hollywood, you know. One guy who played drums on a famous record, and that was all he'd ever done. And he was still living with that, you know.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's more to life than that. I don't know. I'm not trying to like put anybody down, but I just feel like, for me, I just realized what I value in life actually has nothing to do with any of that. I don't really care about money that much. I just want enough that I'm okay.
Well, you're aligned, you see.
So it's just like, for me, it's always just like family and like friends. And I just have this always, I feel like I had this moment when I was like 25 where I was like, damn, I feel like when I'm at the end of my life looking back, I'm not going to care about the shows that I played or like that kind of shit. I'm not going to be like dying like thinking about that. I'm going to be thinking about like my friends that I loved and like my family, and like that is the stuff that I'm going to be like, that's what matters. Everything else was just going to kind of feel like, well, that's cool, I guess. I did that. I don't really care about it, but...
Well, you're just too balanced. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of so many of the big successful people, they got really screwed up childhoods.
Yeah. Well,
John Lennon, you know, is like...
I feel like I just got it all out of my system early on with all the big mental health collapse and everything. And then after I got out of that, I was like, oh my God, I just need to be healthy and stable and happy. And
well,
be
fortunately, you got through that early on, you know. Some people never let go of that.
I know, yeah. No, it's true. I definitely had so much support and help, and very lucky person, indeed. A lot of help. But, yeah, I feel like it's, and then I had this big moment where I was like, do I even do art anymore? Like, if I don't have that, I felt like I didn't know how to keep writing songs without that part of it.
Well,
now I'm kind of coming out of that.
But you know, there are a lot of people who've had very big careers and then do something different.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Actresses. I was reading about, you probably don't know Julie Christie, do you?
Yeah.
You do?
The jazz singer?
What?
Wait, no.
No, she was an English actress.
Oh, no.
Anyway, she was big, you know, in the 60s.
Okay.
Big, beautiful, you know, big symbol. But, do you know who Robert Wyatt is? English musician. It turns out she was best friends with Robert Wyatt's wife, right? And he was like an obscure, like, indie rock guy. And she got to a point where Julie Christie, just didn't like being in the business of movies, you know? And she just stopped doing it.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she helped out her friends Robert White had an accident and he was in a wheelchair, so she bought him a house.
Whoa, nice. Cool.
Julie Christie, she was like a big star, but she's a really good example. She reached a point where she didn't like being around that world. She said it was really just toxic.
Yeah.
It was just, and there's many people like that. They just back out. It's like it was sort of grimy, and she hasn't done anything for years, but she's very happy.
Yeah.
And there's many people like that. I think musicians too.
Mhm. Yeah, I've always felt like that would be the best if you could just write like one big hit and make a bunch of money
Live on the
and
royalties.
then just tap out. That would be that's the way.
Royalties, I believe in royalties.
Yeah, I know. That is the magic. That would be so fun. Cool. But anyways, just sell out. I just want to sell out. Yeah, just one song.
Like, what was it, the Queens? They made like some big hits and then they just did like one good stuff.
There's
Yeah,
so many.
that's the way to do it.
My friend Gwen knows somebody. She was in a band called Garbage or something. She was in some band.
Garbage. That's a good name.
She was in some. I knew the name, but I didn't know the band. But
Oh.
she had. It was like a pretty mainstream.
Okay.
It wasn't Garbage, but she made lots of hits and made all this money, and then just stopped
Yeah.
and started doing painting.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome.
And I don't even know that music. I probably heard it, but she just stepped out of it,
Mhm.
and said I'd rather do. Well, she made a ton of money on royalties and probably still does.
Yeah.
But she just wanted a life back,
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know what they were called. Gwen knows it.
Sweet. Well, I think we got through all my questions. Unless
Really?
there's anything else you want to add.
Oh God, I could go on.
Can you talk about how you built the walls and stuff?
Ooh,
And
yeah.
it's flat.
It is true.
Well, when I
And
moved
then
in,
the punk and the monastery. That stuff.
I wasn't one of the original people here. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
People had been here for about 4 or 5 years when I came, and it was very rough. There were no, everything was extension cables. No one had figured out how there was these boxes in the wall. So everywhere was like cables. And there was only the main walls of the bedrooms and the studios. This room was just an empty room and the studio's empty. And it was a group had sort of colonized it, and it was in the days when people were getting warehouses and doing that. That doesn't exist anymore. So they sort of colonized it. There was about 4 or 5 of them, I think. Some of them went on to be quite famous as well. It's funny, strangely enough. One had his own TV show, I know that. But it was one of those situations where it was a group got together and they put their abilities together. So when I came, actually, there were 3 women living there, and none of them knew how to put up a wall or do anything. I said to them, there's lights in the ceiling. We could put lights in. Oh, really? That's what those are,
Yeah.
We don't have to have these cables everywhere. We can put lights in, Or we can put plugs in the wall, So I did all that because I did construction, and then I started putting up putting windows and doors and stuff, It was slow. I worked on every aspect of this place. I built the dance floor,
Oh.
built the kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was there no kitchen?
It was really rough. It was like
Okay.
stuff that was bought from a junk store and just stood in the room,
Okay. Yeah. Like true punk house kind of.
It really was.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it really.
That's awesome.
And these 2 rooms, there was no wall between them.
You got it.
The month before I moved here, Dana put up a wall, but these 2 rooms were basically this big open space that was used for events, and it was like punk stuff. There was evidence of it everywhere. There was like stickers and broken stuff.
Like they'd have shows up here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Those days, no one cared about legal or illegal. It
Right.
was just
Yeah.
So this was a place where people came and did big loud shows because there was no neighbours. And there was all this evidence though that was like broken windows and stickers and all kinds of residue.
Yeah. Cigarette butts.
That lasted for years. Some of it I finally got rid of, but it was really kind of beaten up actually. There's no one really. Part of it was no one had any building skills, so they'd done everything really badly, and then they just couldn't be bothered with the rest, so they just left it.
Yeah.
So when Dana put that room up there, we made the art studio and the dance studio. That changed everything.
How old were you when you moved in?
35.
Okay, cool.
Just a boy.
Yeah, that's cool.
35.
Yeah.
I lived in Bernal Heights before that.
Oh, really?
Moultrie.
Oh, nice. And Bernal was a lot different back then.
Yeah, I found it very boring, and I wanted to get out, so I was always looking for somewhere. Because before that, I'd lived south of Market,
Yeah.
9th and Folsom.
Okay.
I was looking for another big space. The thing with apartments is you can't do anything to them. Here you can just do whatever you want. You can put up a wall. So I finally found this place where you could customize your room and everything. Yeah, I mean, this place was very raw though, And everything had been cheaply done. The landlord put everything like the cheapest version of everything, like the windows. And nothing was very quality,
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that about it actually. I didn't have to live up to any standard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of nice if you break something, it's like, well, whatever.
Oh, there was broken windows. There was all kind of. We only had one door to the street, and that was very insecure.
Oh.
I built a door.
Yeah.
To keep people out, all stuff like that. But I realised, for me to live here, I might as well make it safe.
Yeah.
Put in all sorts of functional things.
And before it was the punk house, it was a monastery? Before that?
It was a Hare Krishna temple.
Oh, okay. Cool.
There was a time when I looked at the history of this place, because you can go to the building department and get all this. It was built in like 1910 or something.
Yeah, that's like the same.
And it was always associated with the church. It was like a gathering hall, and it was a home. It was a place for single mothers. I know that, which was in those days was a big deal. It always had some sort of church or spiritual connection, and then just before the landlord bought it, it burned down. It was the Hare Krishnas, probably their candles or something. You can still see the burning in the floors actually. So the Hare Krishnas were here, and I've often talked to people about this. There's always been some kind of spiritual thing went on here, yoga and dance and art and music. It was never just a place to make money. It was never just a business, which it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Commercial.
Right. Yeah.
But it always had some kind of angle of healing and community. And that's what it's always been, since I lived here. It's always had that.
That's cool. Good juju. What was the downstairs when you went?
Plumbers.
Part of it?
The plumbers who are now next door.
Oh, okay.
JC Plumbing, Chinese guys.
Okay. So
They
that
were
was
great.
a completely separate thing. Okay.
They were the best neighbours ever.
Really?
They used to come out here to our parties and
Nice.
hang out with us, and I think partly because they were after the women who lived here.
That's so cool, though.
No, they were great. That was a different era.
Yeah. Sure.
They come out and they like, oh, this is really cool. I don't get it, but it's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then it just went downhill after that. We had some really awful neighbours. Downstairs are the worst ever right now.
Yeah.
But those guys were really great. The good thing was they used to go home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Nice.
no one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get here at 7 and make a lot of noise. And the thing with plumbing is most of the business is like early morning, and then no one comes anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Because they all buy their stuff and go to work. Right?
Right, yeah.
So they come and buy pipes, and there'd be all these cars outside here, these trucks, you know. And they'd load up with all this stuff, and then it'd be kind of quiet most of the day, and then they'd leave at 4. So they were the best neighbours ever.
Nice.
Used to come up to our open studios. Some of them bought stuff, I think.
Can you talk about how the downstairs neighbors are gentrified and are very like exclusive, like just the negativity of the downstairs?
The present
How
ones?
gentrification
Oh,
has like affected.
get me started.
Just a little bit.
The first thing about them was they had a fight right away with Ella over something. And misrepresented her as being, she'd attacked them or something. And I'm like, Ella attacked somebody? I mean, she may get aggressive. But... So they really went off board. And then I met the guy to talk to him, and he was making this big deal about how empathy was his thing. Empathy, he said. I'm all about empathy. A week later, he's calling us to say he's going to get his landlord and throw us out, right? He's going to get his lawyer and tell the landlord to throw us out.
Wow.
So he's got... And this goes back to like, I've lived here 30 years, and you know nothing about what we do or the history, and you just think that we should be thrown out. And he said, well, you're squatters, right?
What?
So I looked up the definition of squatter, and I printed it really big and put it through their door. You know?
Nice.
And
Oh, yeah.
basically, it says a squatter is someone who moves in without the approval of the landlord.
And
doesn't pay rent.
Yeah. Right.
Neither of those are true.
Right.
I said, you need to get a bar lawyer because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So after that, they really didn't like me. They're just so entitled, they would never... There was this point reached where no one would ever talk to you, right? You couldn't have a conversation with... I still can't have a conversation with those guys because I don't know who to talk to, or I can't just knock on the door. No one... Before you could do that, you know. So they created this distance and this sort of protective barrier, you know. And then there was this feeling about them that they looked down on us. It was like we were like, just a matter of time before we move on, we're kind of losers, you know.
That's really like the opposite of a community. It's like their own little bubble.
Well, their thing is we build community. That's their thing, right?
Yeah.
And like,
But
Yeah, for who?
well, I said to him like,
exactly.
yeah, but the thing is, their community is based on you paying a membership, right?
Right.
Communities just happen, and he talked about he's in the hospitality business. I said, well, isn't hospitality about when you do it just because you want to do it and you don't have to pay someone?
Yeah, right.
But he's in the hospitality business, so I just, this guy, I can't talk to him. He just doesn't get it, you know. He's in the he grew, I think he was in the hospitality business, which is hotels, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And that's basically about sucking up to rich people, like giving them what they want and not complaining, you know?
Yeah.
this is exactly what he's doing.
What?
Yeah.
This is exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. But this idea of building communities, like, and so what are we doing up here, you know?
Right.
I couldn't have that conversation. I knew he just didn't have the capacity. You know?
Yeah. Not interested in the history or like what this is about, you know.
But it's, you know, building community by charging a membership, you know, like,
Yeah.
what is that?
So
That's
weird.
Anyway,
Twisted
that-
version of community.
Yeah, they're strange people. They're very entitled, very out of touch.
Where are they from?
What?
Where are they from? They're not from
England.
the Bay? Oh, they're from England. Damn. That's
That's even
crazy.
worse. Yeah, I know those kind of English people.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're very uncommunicative. Quite soon on, every time I tried to talk to them, they'd call the landlord immediately and say I was harassing them.
What?
Yeah, I love that they're like really threatening to like.
I
threaten
remember
us.
that. Yeah, they were really pushing to have you guys evicted, which is like insane. Have you been here ever, and also you didn't do anything to like.
But that just shows their unwillingness to even find out where they are,
Right. Yeah.
or to look at the history of this place, or who we are. They're not
Yeah.
interested in who we are. They have this idea that's like we're like hippie squatters or something. I mean, it's laughable, yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, people who know me, they're like, really? You're a hippie squatter?
Yeah. Well, just like the squatter thing is hilarious because it's like, no, you're right. Like, that's
Well,
good.
you know, I've calculated, I've paid over $1.5 million to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean.
That's a conservative estimate.
Right.
I said to him many
Decades.
times, like, you know, we're the guys who've kept you going because we're the guys who've always paid the rent on time.
Yeah.
You get these people come and go downstairs, but we're the consistent,
True.
reliable group. You know,
You have the same
he
landlord the
doesn't
whole
want to hear
time.
that. Well, his father, yeah,
Oh, okay. Got
and
it.
now him. But I said to him often, you know, you should appreciate us because we're the guys who have actually kept you going and given you millions of dollars.
Yeah. Reliably, like, you know.
We've never missed the rent. We've been here all these years, 40 years probably.
Yeah.
Whereas, and you remember in COVID, that place was empty for like a year, right?
Mhm.
In between his tenants, there was always like 6 months, a year of empty,
Yeah.
no rent. So,
Caught it then.
what?
Should have caught it then.
Yeah, when it was empty.
Yeah.
Well, they'll
We
leave
had like
down
2
there.
years.
Oh, that was the other thing they said. They advertised on their website. Do you remember how they'd found an abandoned building, they said. We were so lucky, we found an abandoned building. That's this building, right? What he meant was he found a building with an empty space in it.
Yeah.
Upstairs, they were living there for 40 years.
I found an abandoned building filled with squatters that I've been trying to get evicted. What the hell? That's so crazy.
Well, they had it on their website, like, you know, it's just, we're so lucky we abandoned buildings there. It wasn't abandoned by anybody.
They're trying to emphasize that they're not gentrifying, but they are very much
Yeah.
gentrifying.
No. You're not gonna. No one's gonna think that.
But one thing I do know, we've outlasted a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I think we'll outlast them.
Yeah.
I noticed there's not a lot of people in there these days. Do you notice that?
It's a big space to not have a lot of people.
Most nights I go by there, the room is
$250
empty.
per person.
What?
It's a big space. It's a lot of people do it.
I bet they're paying $10,000 a month. But someone told me they're a branch of Airbnb or something like that, some big corporation.
Oh. Yeah. It is kind of crazy though. It's like such a stark, like, demonstration of the general vibe of the mission these days. Like just this little dynamic of like, it's like such a metaphor for just like
It
the
is.
vibe, you know, in
That's
general
so
of like
lovely.
people coming in and trying to make. They're attracted to be here because it's like there's a lot of money here now. So it's like I get it. And on the one hand, it's like yeah, okay, everybody needs to make money. Like I get it, you know. But also, you can't just come somewhere and not give a shit about what happened before you got here, or not even try to be involved in it in any way. You know, it's not right on a human level. Like that is just not right. You know, you gotta like have respect for the place that you're coming into as the newcomer. Like you gotta pay your dues and kind of be like, okay. Don't just own the place just because you can't have enough money to pay the rent.
Well, it was
It's like-
striking how they made no effort to understand us or
Right.
to find out who we were.
And
Or-
I think most new businesses opening up, it feels that way a lot from the outside, you know?
Well, they're working on a capitalist model, you know. Which
Right.
Is like,
Totally.
other stuff is like,
Yeah.
You're going to just make a profit. The other stuff is just get rid of it. You know?
Right, yeah.
It's just an obstacle to us. You know?
Yeah.
So that's their model. And but the good thing about those models is they fail, you know, because they don't have a genuine structure. They have like a fake structure. You know?
Yeah, right.
That's why this place has survived. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people coming in the studio. They've been coming here since I lived here, like
Wow.
dancers.
Yeah.
One woman's now like she's got 2 grandkids.
Oh my gosh. That's nice. Yeah, it's like so cool. I think about that always with the right spot too, with people that are like, oh, I've been here since I moved here in like
Yeah, I'm one of them.
1985, and like I used to come here with my friends, and you know, or people like when I would work there, people would come in and they would be like, I haven't been here in 30 years and it still feels exactly the same. And I'm like, wow, it's like you know, something to be said for those places. Yeah, totally. These little capsules that like.
Rice Spot's got something going on. I don't know what it is, but it's like. I remember those days, early '80s, when I'd sit around this table and there'd be like beer bottles everywhere.
Yeah.
With this group of friends who I'm still friends with all of them. You know.
Oh.
Remember Pedro who came here from? He was one of those guys. And I just remember, and there was a woman who worked there who played congas in a band, and she was great. Susan Green, you ever know her? She was a mission person, but
Nice.
so it had a nice feel to it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was like it wasn't just a bar; it was like a community centre or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still go there.
Yeah.
Your brother works there now.
I know. I'm training him actually the next
I was
couple
there
of
the other night, and there he was.
Yeah. We're everywhere. But no, it's true. And like, I also like something that's been reoccurring in these interviews is people talking about how their cell phones weren't a thing. So there were just these spots that you knew your friends would be, and you would just go there to find people. Like after you got off work or whatever, it would just be like, oh, you just have to go to the place. You know, like people weren't like texting, like, where are you? Like, let's meet up on this day at this time, blah, blah. You know, like everything is so scheduled now. And it was just a lot more like spontaneous and just like, you go there, and if your friends weren't there, you knew they'd be here.
We
and,
had phones, but you had to be at
well,
home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you didn't have people's, like, I have, like, my friends' locations on my phone. Like, I could, like, literally see where they are. You know, like, it's just, like, completely different now, you know?
Oh, yeah, that was...
It's
I mean,
like-
when answering machines came in, which was
Yeah, right.
in the 80s, I was living south of Market, and that was like, suddenly the whole world opened up. You didn't have to be home, you know?
Right, yeah, you could leave a message.
But I sometimes wonder about how we ever got anything done in those days. Like, if you had an art oven, you had to send postcards, you know?
Yeah,
If you had a party at the house, I had to call 50 people on the phone.
yeah.
You couldn't just hit an email,
That's crazy.
100 people, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to remember, actually.
Yeah.
But we got things done, and I think there's a lot of telephones involved, actually.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but it seems like there was also kind of just like this spontaneity of like you would just kind of like
Yeah, go to the
wherever.
Rice Spot on Wednesday night, you'd be there, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot
like-
of that, yeah.
Or just like people would be where they said they were going to be, or you know what I mean?
It's funny, but you lived under those conditions. You just kind of,
Right.
that was all you
Just
had.
normal,
you didn't,
yeah.
you didn't have the option of anything else.
Right.
So,
You didn't even notice that.
yeah, and I always tell people, like, if you called somebody and they weren't home, you never got to talk to them.
Yeah.
Until they had
Yeah.
answering machines. So, or you could go to meet someone and they wouldn't turn up, and you have no idea why they didn't turn up.
Right.
Or did you get the wrong day, or they gone somewhere else?
Yeah.
You never would know.
Yeah.
Now you can like, oh, you're on the other corner. You know?
Yeah. Let me text you. Yeah.
But you know, if that's all you know, then you expect that. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have options. Now it's
But I do wonder how that impacted like the feeling of community and people's kind of like, you know what I mean? Just like knowing where people would be at a given time on a given, like, oh, it's Thursday, so everyone's gonna be, or you know what I mean? Like, it probably wasn't even as like measured as that, but I just feel like I wonder how that is not as much of a thing. Like, there still is like stuff like that happens, but I don't know.
I think actually that, you know, the Beatles night
Oh,
at Rice Spot. You
yeah,
go to that,
yeah.
you just know it's.
right.
I'm always amazed who's there actually.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of networking going on, I don't think. But yeah, I mean that was a big shift when all that changed, because especially like having a party used to be really hard work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you'd have to answer all the cancellations or the,
Oh yeah.
you know, what day is it again? You know.
Yeah, right.
I used to book the studio on the phone, and that was like a full-time job. You know?
Oh my gosh.
Now
yeah.
it's just like.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, you didn't have to live through that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not for very long.
I remember birthday parties.
Yeah, I did too.
But there was also like with your place, Radio Valencia.
Uh-huh.
If you went there, you didn't know he was going to be there, but
Yeah.
oh yeah, because you know this guy
Somebody
always
would
goes
know.
there. You know.
Right, yeah.
That was how you, like you said, you built community because
Mm-hmm.
you knew if you went there, there'd be someone you knew.
Right. You just,
Sometimes it'd be
talk
10
to
people,
somebody.
you know.
Right, yeah.
Well, I feel like that's still, in an essence,
Yes, definitely. And you meet
just like
people.
human.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, right. And like I've made many of my friends just from like going out and going to shows, and then you just see people. Yeah, exactly. It's like that definitely still is a thing. I just wonder, like, I just feel like it probably was so much more. Like now it's just easier to like, oh, we can just talk on the phone, or like I'll text you, or make a plan, or like I need to cancel an hour before, I can just let you know. You know what I mean? Like you're not as like, I don't know. It just is like feels like that's a big shift that also is coinciding with this timeline. You know, that I feel like is an
Yeah,
element
and
of
life
it,
is a lot
probably.
easier in that sense, you know.
Yeah.
And all the stuff with ordering an Uber, you know, like, and they're there right away, you know. Like,
Yeah.
you just have to order a taxi and wait for half an hour, you know.
Right. Yeah.
If they came, you know.
Yeah.
So life is just so easy compared to that, you know.
Yeah.
But in some ways, we have to like give some of the positive things that we had, like those
Yeah.
like connections,
Mm-hmm.
and like those like community spaces, and that sort of like it sort of like morphed into this issue of like ease and availability.
And the ability to isolate, I think, is like, well, especially like after COVID and everything too. I've noticed so much more that people just like want to be home more, but and I don't think it's always bad to do that, but I do feel like there's kind of like it's really easy to be alone or like just be home.
Yeah.
Now, in
More
this way
options.
that, it's like you have everything on your computer. You can be endlessly entertained for hours. Like, you know what I mean? In this way, where like when in the 80s, it was like, you know, you like my mom was always like, I never even had a TV. You know, like it was just like you just didn't. You were like, I don't know. It wasn't so like we weren't so distracted all the time.
Well, there was years here when no one had a TV in this building.
Yeah. Right. Totally.
But I was just thinking about the salons again as well. That was because what happened there was a whole community built up around that, who I knew, a really extended group of people, because they knew there was a thing here every month, you know.
Yeah.
And I still know a lot of those people, and they remember those days. But it was like one of those things where this was where there was going to be this thing, you know. It was like the first Saturday or whatever it was, you know. And so if you turned up, you didn't know it was going to be there, but it kind of grew, you know, the whole thing. And then we got written up in the paper, and that really blew it all up. You know. More people came.
Yeah. How long did you guys do that for?
About a year.
A year, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've still got all the flyers, actually. It was great. It was really great. But I don't think I enjoy that kind of public thing anymore like I used to.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of people in the house. There'd be like 50, 100 people in the house.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, wow.
And some of the shows would take over the whole house. You know?
Yeah.
I remember one year these guys were doing this dance in the shower. But it kind of took over, you know?
Yeah.
But I still know so many people I met through that. You know? Like the guy who leads the choir I met him here. He turned up one day and he was playing this opera piece on the piano with this singer, and I'd never met him in my life before.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So long-term friends, and then it really grew, you know. It really grew, and it became a network, you know.
Yeah. That's cool.
A lot of people remember it. They come here and they say, "I came here in 1985. Do you remember that?"
Yeah.
Or whenever it was.
Yeah. Nice. That's cool. A lot of history. Awesome.
So you recorded everything?
Yeah, I recorded it all on this.
Oh, you videoed?
Well, yeah, I think
Didn't do that.
filming it.